child in the vehicle for 5 hours, the child's going to die.
Accidents happen. Good people can forget things.
When you spoke to Rhonda, what did she tell you?
She just kept saying that she forgot the baby in the car.
I mean, I was just a mom a couple hours ago, a couple minutes ago, and now I'm having to proceed a life without a kid.
A Florida trial is underway against a babysitter accused of leaving an infant inside of a hot car for hours to ultimately die. With day one in the books, we're going to break down the key moments so far from the hot car baby death trial against Rhonda Jewell. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. 46-year-old Florida babysitter, or former Florida babysitter, Rhonda Jewell, is now standing trial for aggravated manslaughter and murder charges. This after she allegedly left 10-month-old Araya Page trapped inside of a hot car for over 5 hours. Authorities say the scorching temperatures inside of that car killed this little girl. So how did this happen, right? How could this have happened? Well, Jewell was apparently babysitting Araya on and off for about a month prior to this incident. And on the day in question, she was supposed to be looking after 4 children, including Araya, and deputies say Jewell picked up the infant from her mother's home at approximately 8 a.m. on July 19th, 2023. Jewell then drove to another residence that morning where she was going to be babysitting the other children, and this is where she apparently left this young girl, 10-month-old, inside of the car. And what's even more disturbing is that she allegedly never even realized the baby was in the car until Araya's mother arrived to pick her up. Now, according to the arrest affidavit obtained by Law&Crime, the car's internal temperatures reached more than 133 degrees Fahrenheit, and authorities estimate that Araya was in that car for at least 5 hours. This little girl was taken to a hospital. She was pronounced dead shortly after she arrived. Following Jewell's arrest, she was released from jail on a $25,000 bond and GPS monitoring, but now her trial is underway. And with her trial underway, we want to kind of highlight some of the key moments from day one. Well, yesterday began with opening statements, and this is where prosecutor Ralph Yazdia began by laying out the tragic moment when this child's mother went to pick up her daughter.
Brooke's going to tell you when she's on the stand that she went to go pick up her daughter, Araya, at around 1 o'clock that afternoon. That's when she would normally pick her up. She went to Stacy's house. Brooke's going to tell you that when she goes to pick up Araya, she goes to the front door. That house has a back door. She doesn't go to the back door. She never does. It has a garage door. She doesn't go to the garage door because the garage door is closed. She goes to the front door. That's where she always goes. Brooke's going to tell you that she knocked on the front door. There was no answer. She can hear the TV on inside the house with the door, so she knows somebody's in there. She then rings the doorbell. There's no answer. She then decides to call the defendant and just says, "I'm here." The defendant then says, and Brooke will testify to this, "What door are you at?" Which Brooke will say seemed a bit strange because she always goes to the front door. And Brooke then tells the defendant, "I'm at the front door." At that moment, the door opens. The defendant is standing there. Brooke's going to tell you she walked into the house. She took her shoes off. She was planning on just talking to the defendant for a while. At the moment that Brooke takes her shoes off and she's in the house, she's going to tell you that the defendant started screaming, "Brooke, Brooke." And the defendant then runs out the front door, past Brooke, and she's running towards her own vehicle. The defendant had parked her vehicle outside on the gravel right beside the house, just outside. Brooke's going to tell you at this point she didn't know what was going on because she decided just to follow the defendant. She didn't know why she was screaming. She follows the defendant to the defendant's car, and then she realizes Araya is still in the car, in the back seat, strapped inside her baby seat, that she's been there now for over 5 hours. Brooke's going to tell you at that point, they get Araya out of the car. It's the middle of July. She's extremely hot. They move her into the garage and put her on, I think there's a golf cart in the garage. They put her on top of the golf cart. Brooke calls 911. Brooke is already performing CPR, but they take over now. Paul Dickinson's going to take a stand. He's going to tell you that when they started performing CPR, that he and his second crew member realized pretty quickly that what they call rigor mortis had already set in. The child's body had gotten stiff. That's what happens when someone passes away, the muscles get stiff.
Hey, side note here, really appreciate you guys watching this story with us. Not an easy one, important one though to talk about, because unfortunately we are seeing way too many of these hot car deaths, so it's important to bring awareness to this. And one of the reasons that we're able to do that and produce these kinds of shows is because we have amazing partners. And I just want to call out one sponsor in particular right now, Upside. So Upside is actually a free app that helps you get cash back when you buy gas, groceries, food, and I mean real, actual money that appears in your Upside app that you can then transfer straight into your bank account. I'll give you an example. As you can see, I used Upside to find a gas station. I claimed an offer. I pay with my credit card at the pump. I followed the steps on the app and I got cash back. And you can use Upside at all different kinds of places, restaurants, convenience stores. So to find out how much you could earn, click the link in the description to download Upside or scan the QR code on screen and use our promo code Sidebar and you'll get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. Hope you like it. Prosecutor Yazdia argued to the jury that Rhonda Jewell was essentially careless in leaving baby Uriah Page alone for an estimated 5 hours in that car. And the key here is it's not about the intent to kill. There was no intent to kill, but rather a failure to do what she was supposed to do under the law.
The defendant engaged in a course of conduct that she knew or should have known, or any reasonable person would know, that if you leave the child in the vehicle for 5 hours, the child's going to die. The state's going to prove to you that she had a duty to care for the child, to feed the child, to change the child's diapers, for bottles, use the baby lotion, the baby wipes, everything that was in there. We're going to show you through the evidence she didn't do any of that. She left the child in the car for 5 hours. So we're going to ask you to find her guilty on aggravated manslaughter of a child. Also, the charge of leaving a child in a vehicle, unattended, unsupervised, that results in great bodily harm, or as I said, in this case, death. The state's going to prove that child Uriah was left in the vehicle for over 15 minutes, over an hour, over 2 hours. It was for over 5 hours. We're going to ask you to find him guilty on that. And the third charge is third-degree murder unpremeditated. We're not saying this is premeditated. We're saying third-degree murder unpremeditated during the course of a felony. And what the state means by that is we're going to show you, we're going to prove to you that the defendant committed the felony of leaving a child in a vehicle that resulted in great bodily harm, in this case, death. And that during the course of her committing that felony, the child, Uriah, died, which is a third-degree murder charge.
So where you have this kind of culpable negligence, carelessness standard, a duty for the manslaughter charge, with the murder charge, it's more like felony murder. Someone dies during the course of a felony. But now, with Jewell's defense, it was their turn to present their opening statement. Again, these previews of what the jury can expect the evidence to show. And what they basically said was this was not a crime, but rather it was a tragic accident that could happen to anyone. Her defense attorney asked the jury to not act on emotion when deciding her fate.
The state's told you that they believe, from their view of the facts, that they will have proven to you that Rhonda Jewell is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt at the end of this case. That's what they certainly will ask you to do. I would ask you to remember that you are not to form any fixed opinions about this case until you've heard all the testimony, seen all the exhibits, and been instructed on the law. This was a tragedy. No one would ever dispute that. Accidents happen. Good people can forget things. Sometimes the outcome of that is just absolutely catastrophic. I ask you to keep in mind that the law in this case defines what a crime is and what a crime is not. And the judge will read you those instructions. You must determine yourself which facts you put the greatest weight in or which facts you don't. That is your job. You are charged with the task of applying the law, whatever it is, even if you don't like it, to those facts. And you're required to give Rhonda Jewell the presumption of innocence as the judge will instruct you. I ask you to hold the state to its burden of proof that the judge will detail for you. That you hold the state to the law that requires the state prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt. I believe at the end of this case, the state will have failed to provide you sufficient evidence consistent with the law that finds Rhonda Jewell guilty.
All right, so from there, it's the prosecution's case. They go first, they have the burden, and they began by calling such an important witness, a powerful first witness to the stand, Araya Page's mother, Brooke. This grief-stricken mother testified on finding her 10-month-old daughter with blue lips and having to perform CPR on her to try to save her life.
When you arrived on July 19th to pick up Araya, where did you go?
To the front door.
To the front door. Had you ever gone to the back door?
No.
Have you ever gone to the garage door?
No.
So that was normal for you.
Yes.
What did you do when you first got to the front door?
Knocked on the door.
Did anyone answer when you knocked on the door?
No.
After you knocked on the door, what did you do next?
Rang the doorbell.
Did anyone come to the door when you rang the doorbell?
No.
Could you hear anything inside the house?
Yes.
What could you hear?
The TV and the kids in the house.
So you could hear that something was inside the house.
Yes.
After knocking on the door and ringing the doorbell and there's no answer, what do you do next?
Picked up the phone and called her.
So you called the defendant.
Yes.
What did you say when you called her?
I said, hey, I'm here.
And what did the defendant say to you?
What door are you at?
And what were you thinking when she said, what door are you at?
I was wondering why she was asking me that. I've never went to any other doors.
Okay. What did you tell her?
I said, front door.
What happened next when you told her you were at the front door?
She then came to the door and opened it.
When she opened the door, what did you do?
I stepped inside.
And what did you do as soon as you got inside?
What did I do?
Yeah, what did you do?
I took my shoes off.
Okay, and what was the purpose for that?
I was just always raised to take your shoes off in somebody else's house.
Okay. What does the defendant do as soon as you walk in and you take your shoes off?
She kind of shoved me out the way and just started running out the door.
Is she saying anything as she was running out the door?
Screaming my name.
Do you know where she was running to?
Not until she arrived where she was running to.
And where did she eventually arrive?
The back passenger door of her Tahoe.
Would that be her vehicle?
Yes.
Where was her vehicle parked?
On the side of the driveway in the rocks.
So it was outside?
Yes.
Wasn't in the garage or anything like that?
No.
Did you follow her to her car?
And when I realized where she was going, yes.
When you arrived at the defendant's car, what did you see?
Araya, not breathing.
Where was Araya?
In her car seat still.
Was she still strapped in?
Yes.
Exactly where you had put her?
Yes.
You said she was not breathing.
No.
How did you know that?
Her lips were blue.
What did you do next?
I told her to call 911.
And was Araya taken out of the car?
Yes.
Was her baby bag with all the items you had packed still in the car as well?
Yes.
And she went on to further describe this heartbreaking moment when she learned that her daughter couldn't be saved. And she even broke down sobbing on the stand at one point when she was shown photos of her baby girl.
Do you remember what type of instruction or what you were doing with Araya?
It's really hard to remember, but I vaguely remember. Would you like me to tell you?
Yes.
So she told me 2 hands on on her chest. She said, don't push too hard because you'll break her ribs. But she said, give her air in her mouth. Try to give her air in her mouth.
And did you follow those instructions?
I did.
How did Araya feel to you when you were touching her?
Very rubbery and wet.
Did the ambulance arrive?
Yes.
The police arrive?
Yes.
When the ambulance arrived, did the paramedics then take over with the CPR?
Yes.
And did they eventually take Araya to the hospital?
Yes.
Would that be Ed Frazier?
Yes.
Right here.
Yes.
Okay. And did you go to the hospital as well?
Yes.
When you went to the hospital, I imagine other family members went there as well?
Yes, correct.
Did Pamela Page show up and other individuals too?
Yes.
Did your husband eventually come to the hospital as well?
Yes.
And did you then hear from the doctor
Yes.
and were informed that Araya had passed?
Yes.
How did you feel at that moment?
I didn't know how to feel. I didn't know what to feel. Don't even know how to explain it.
What did you do next?
I sat outside and talked to the family and asked them, what do we do next? I mean, I was just a mom a couple hours ago, a couple minutes ago, and now I'm having to proceed a life without a kid.
This page, just very briefly, Stacy Exhibit D. You recognize that?
Yes.
What is that photo?
Stacy's house.
Is that the house you went to in July 19th?
Yes.
To pick up Araya?
Yes.
And then Stacy Exhibit C, identification. Obviously, you recognize that as well.
Yes. It's okay.
And what is that? Who's that photo?
Another key witness that the state called was a woman who testified that defendant Jewell told her she forgot the baby was inside the car. This is Stacy Pashkal, a woman who used the defendant as a babysitter for her own two children, and she tells the jury of the defendant's own alleged admission to her on the day of the incident when she receives this urgent phone call from the defendant.
Do you eventually get a phone call from the defendant?
Yes.
Okay, and do you remember approximately what time it was?
In the 12 o'clock hour. I don't remember the exact time.
Okay, no, that's okay. You were at work when you get this phone call?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what did the defendant say to you when she called you?
She said that I needed to come home right now. She was screaming and crying on the phone. She said that she left the baby in the car and that I needed to come home right now.
When she said she left the baby in the car and you need to come home, were you thinking that maybe it was possibly your kids?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you ask her about your kids?
Yes, I did.
What did you ask her?
I said, I need to know what happened. Are my kids okay? And she said, your kids are fine.
Okay. So you were concerned for your kids' safety, obviously.
Yes, sir.
When she said, I left the baby in the car, what did you think when she said that?
I assumed that she meant Araya.
Okay. Because you had seen Araya come to your house before.
Yes, sir.
So you get this call from her saying, I left the baby in the car. What did you do?
I dropped everything I was doing and grabbed my stuff and ran to the front of my office to get someone to bring me home.
Did you drive home?
No, I could not. My vehicle was being detailed at the time, and so I just looked at the first person in the front of the office and asked her to please drive me.
How long does it take you to get to the house?
A couple of minutes. I only live about a mile and a half-ish down the road.
And you live on Estate Street, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
That's here in Baker County?
Yes, sir.
When you first get there, what do you see?
There were a lot of police officers and ambulances and fire trucks.
You see your three kids?
When I pulled in, no, I did not.
When did you first see your kids?
When I got to the porch, I saw 3 sets of eyes looking out the window at me.
What did you do when you saw your kids? That's okay.
I tried to speak to Rhonda first, and then I dropped all my things on the porch and went inside to check on my children.
When you spoke to Rhonda, what did she tell you?
She was frantic. It was very difficult to understand her, but she just kept saying that she forgot the baby in the car.
You can see how that's a problematic piece of evidence for Jewell. But the state also called another important witness, and this one is really tough to listen to. This was a registered nurse who actually took Araya's temperature when this little girl was brought to the hospital. She told the jury just the unimaginable, excruciating temperatures that this little girl's body reached from being trapped inside of that hot car.
Would it be fair to say it was determined that very quickly that Araya Page was deceased?
Yes.
After that was determined, was the temperature of Araya Page taken?
Yes. Yes, it was.
And were you present for that?
I can't recall completely if I was standing right there, but I was no more than 10, 15 feet away at any time of that patient's entire stay.
Okay. Do you know why her temperature was taken?
I believe it was a request from the medical examiner that we had reached out to.
And was it documented what the temperature was?
It was.
Do you recall what the thermometer goes up to?
From my understanding, the thermometers go up to 110.
Do you remember what her temperature was for Araya when they took her temperature?
The reading on the thermometer was 110 degrees Fahrenheit.
So the thermometer wouldn't go higher than 110.
I can't say for sure that that specific thermometer is limited to 110, but I believe that is the limit.
And her temperature registered as 110.
Yes, that's
So
correct.
it's possible that it could have been higher than 110,
Yes.
depending on the thermometer that was used.
Unbelievable. She is facing a sentence of up to 30 years if she's convicted on the manslaughter charge and 15 years if she's convicted on the third-degree murder charge. And if you'd like, you can actually stream this trial and other trials that we have right on our Law&Crime YouTube page. That's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.